Well, let's bring in polling expert Joe Twyman. Joe, thanks for joining us. He's the director and co-founder of Deltapoll. What's your take on those headline numbers that Sam was just discussing?
Well, in a sense, they're replicating what we have seen in all of the polling, MRP polling or conventional polling, going back some time. Yes, they're at the upper end of expectations in terms of the Labour majority, but they really back up the overall story, which we have seen both before the general election was called and since. The long-term trends have suggested, not just for weeks or months, but for years, that the Conservatives have been in some trouble, and this simply re-emphasises that.
I guess my follow-up to that is the extent to which we really were expecting that scale of actual outcome. Yes, we've had 20 points, 20-plus point leads for Labour in the polls for many months. Has that always implied to you that it would be a number of seats, a majority of that size?
Yes, I mean, based simply on a uniform national swing calculation, assuming that the movement is equal across all constituencies, you would expect a sizable three-figure majority based on 22 point leads. And the big question now, however, is regarding reform, because polls are only ever a snapshot of public opinion at the time. And that poll was conducted before Nigel Farage's announcement. The big question that we will be looking at over the next few days and weeks is whether that announcement changes the overall picture. At the moment, it doesn't look, on existing polling, like Reform will win anywhere. They won't win any seats. But Nigel Farage's announcement that he's running in Clacton could change the situation there. The difficulty is that the MRP polls, such as the one that you talked about, cannot take account of hyper-local factors. And there isn't much more significant hyper-local factors than Nigel Farage running in your constituency.
Certainly true. So let's move on to Nigel Farage and the impact of his announcement. I mean, putting Clacton aside, and of course it would be significant if he won that, but putting it aside, does it change your view as to the likely final nationwide percentage for Reform, whether they win seats or not, and whether that will mean many more Labour victories if Reform takes votes away from the Tories?
Well, the short answer is we don't really know, because there's still more than 4 weeks of the campaign remaining. And we know that historically, around about a third of people in recent elections have not made their mind up until the election, until during the election campaign itself. The announcement yesterday certainly has the potential to change things, but we don't yet know whether it's a talking point or a turning point. The key question will be whether Nigel Farage can use the publicity that he's generated from his announcement to actually change the profile of Reform supporters. Can he increase the number of people supporting Reform by broadening its base beyond the people who've been supporting it so far, who tend to be, not universally, but tend to be former Conservative voters? Can he reach people who other people, Richard Tice's previous leader, for instance, have not been able to connect with? That's a really important question.
So talk to us about that difference between, as you said, many are undecided until polling day, and polling day versus 4 weeks out. If we look back at 2017, where clearly there was someone at this stage with a very big lead, it was Theresa May back then, who then didn't end up getting a majority, albeit did get the most seats. At what point did that lead start to slip away? At this point, can Rishi Sunak and the Conservatives still say, don't worry about it, we've got 4 weeks, this is always what we expected at this stage? Or would they have needed to see the polls narrowing already over these first 10 days or so?
In 2017, the key events were the announcements that were made by Theresa May and her government, which reduced her lead significantly, coupled with a strong performance by Labour. So it was a combination of both of those things. It wasn't so much timing, it was and the sort of general ebb and flow of things. It was specifically the events. And so what Rishi Sunak will be hoping, and I'm sure communicating to his team, is that they need to do all they can to improve their position. But if there's to stand a chance of closing this historically large gap to any meaningful degree, they need Labour to make mistakes as well. And Labour need to make mistakes that resonate with the public and actually change the dial, rather than simply causing a bit of internal discussion.
So touch on the TV debate happening tonight. Is that something that's an opportunity for Rishi Sunak? Is it a risk for Keir Starmer?
Absolutely. TV debates always have the potential to bring about significant change, as we saw in the first debate back in 2010. The difficulty is that actually it was the first debate in 2010 which was the only one to cause significant difference. Since then, not just the media landscape has changed, but also the audience watching debates and engaging with debates has changed, and also the way that politicians and political parties approach debates has changed. And so I think it's very unlikely that tonight's debate or forthcoming debates will have a significant impact, but they certainly have the potential to do so. And so, yes, we'll all be watching, excitedly expecting a knockout blow or a real zinger. It probably won't happen, but it could.
Joe Twyman, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.